My name is Andrea Hobley. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters, Woodbury Cottage Grove area. I would like to welcome everyone to our annual legislative interviews webinar. First, I'm going to take a few minutes just to give you a brief overview of the League of Women Voters. Since its inception in October 1919, League of Women Voters Minnesota members have developed positions on a variety of issues through an intensive process of study and consensus. League of Women Voters Minnesota members advocate for these positions at the legislature and other levels of government. League of Women Voters Minnesota positions are available at lwvmn.org. The League of Women Voters encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League is proud to be nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing candidates or political parties at any level of government, but always working on vital issues of concern to members of the public. The League holds nonpartisan candidate forums, runs nonpartisan voter registration drives, and advocates on a limited number of issues. Today's legislative interviews offer an opportunity to expand our understanding of the issues confronting the 2026 legislature. I look forward to hearing from our panel of legislators, and I hope you do too. And now I'd like to turn it over to our moderator for today, Betsy Stites, the legislative interview coordinator. You're muted, Betsy.
Thank you, Andrea. Good morning. I am thrilled to be part of this process. I look forward to it every year and really appreciate all of you taking time to be part of our panel. Senator Seeberger is not able to be with us today, but every other legislator from our Woodbury Cottage Grove area is part of this process today, and I really appreciate it, especially with the session starting next Tuesday. Thanks for taking the time out. I'd like to kind of give you an overview of what's going to happen today. The questions were developed by the League of Women Voters Minnesota, our legislative interview committee, and input from our own league members. Because of the time constraints, we're not going to be able to have questions from the audience, but you may submit questions on our website to the legislative interview follow-up link. Each of our legislators will have about a minute and a half for the first question, and then approximately 1 minute for all additional questions. We've got 10 questions. Hopefully we'll get to all of them if time allows, but don't hold us to that. We'll do the best we can. So with no additional comments, we're going to get right to the important part, which is our questions. So I'm going to start first with Representative Buck, and I want to first say congratulations. You've only been a representative here for 2 weeks, and we're thrilled that you were able to join us today. Here's the first question, and this is the question that will be asked for all representatives going forward. What district do you represent, and what is your committee assignment? What will be your top 3 priorities for the legislative session coming up, and why? Representative Buck?
Yeah, Hamadakliapi. Hello, my relatives. I represent 47A, which it covers South Maplewood and Woodbury. It's the seat that our now Senator Amanda Hemmingson Yeager held before being elected to Senate. I was just given my committees this week, so I am on the Housing Committee, the Commerce Committee, and the Energy Committee. My 3 top priorities would be obviously facilitating whatever actions we can to make sure that ICE does get out of our streets, and at the very least, making sure that we have a way to hold them accountable for the violation of rights that have happened. I think we can also do things like banning masks, mandating body cameras, And then the second one would be the housing and actually affordability of everything. I think everything has just become so unaffordable, but housing is a big one, healthcare is a big one. So really taking a look at how we can help families who have been affected, not only by the occupation of ICE, but also from the federal administration's cuts that have affected all of us so greatly. And then third, oh my gosh, if I could hurry up, I would say gun control, responsible gun control would be an important one as well.
My speaker back on. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, that question now goes to Representative Cha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ethan Cha, and I'm state representative for District 47B. I'm going into my fourth session in 2026 here, and I sit on the Commission of Pensions and Retirement for the state of Minnesota. I sit on Commerce and Legacy. My three top priorities is the obvious ones are going to be that my work in pension is important to me, and it's important to those that have a pension in the state of Minnesota, and keeping those costs of living to a minimum so that people can afford to continue to live in harmony within their communities. Number two is consumer protection. As I sit on commerce, I want to ensure that we continue to provide protection for fraud against our seniors, against our children, and to hold social media companies accountable for impacting our communities. You know, the other two priorities for me is going to be, protecting our constitutional rights. Making sure that the rights of every individual in the state of Minnesota is protected under the Constitution. As your legislator, that is my priority. Number three is going to be the public safety piece. We all need to have a safe environment in order for us to thrive as a community. And so, I want to thank everyone for in the state of Minnesota for coming together, standing together as a state in this hard time. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative DePel.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for having me on here. I represent District 41B, and I actually sit on four different committees: the Education Finance, Education Policy, Legacy, and Health Committee. And in those, we have a relatively broad scope of tending to the laws in Minnesota and trying to make sure everybody has an equal opportunity, an ability to succeed. And within that, it really has to do with our future, that education and our children and our children's children have the academic opportunity that they could succeed and be prepared to go into the workforce and have every advantage. So that's one priority. As the board chair and founder of a school, I've got a deep both knowledge base and experience in that. And then as a business owner with 20 employees that provides livelihood for multitudes of families, I want to focus also on making sure that individuals have the opportunity to succeed with good paying jobs and financial security. And then finally, we need to make sure that our communities are safe without question. We need to support our law enforcement and help them to succeed.
Thank you, Representative DePel. Representative Hansen.
Good morning. My name is Rick Hansen. I represent District 53B. That is all of South St. Paul and a couple precincts in Inver Grove and Dakota County, and in Washington County, Newport, St. Paul Park, northern Gray Cloud Island Township, and part of Cottage Grove. Um, I'm not very dressed up today because I'm going to be out cutting buckthorn after we're done with this. So it's a beautiful day, and I'd encourage people to get outside. Three topics. I'm on a variety of committees. Agriculture, I co-chair. In the House, we're evenly divided. Environment, and also capital investment. So number one in terms of priority are public works projects. very basic infrastructure. We're talking sewer and water. And in our area of the state, we're talking about PFAS with drinking water for our infrastructure. How do we make sure we get a bonding bill, a public works bill to make sure that we have capital projects work for people? Uh, Secondly is basic protecting democracy. Minnesota has been through a lot in the last year, and how do we strengthen our democracy, encourage more participation, and make sure that our constitutional rights are respected and prospective. And then finally, I think reform. The world is changing very rapidly, and we have a lot of laws that have been on the books for many years, that the world is a little different now. I think this goes hand in hand with protecting democracy. How do we make sure Minnesota works for the rest of this new century? We're 25 years into it. I think we can do things a little differently. I'm optimistic with a divided House and a very tight Senate that we can get a few things done, and I'm hopeful.
Thank you, Representative Hanson. Senator Hemmingsen Yeager.
Good morning, and thank you always so much for hosting this. My name is Amanda Hemmingsen Yeager. I'm the new senator for District 47, so South Maplewood and all of Woodbury now. Very excited, new committees for me. I'll be on state and local government, capital investment or bonding, and the taxes committee. So lots for me to learn ahead. Very excited. When it comes to priorities, I always come back to values, and I think coming up this session, first priority is protect. We need to protect our democracy, protect our safety so people feel safe in their communities, protect our environment, and protect the things that we've already accomplished, like universal school lunches, paid family leave, our education funding tied to inflation, things like that. Second priority is to respond. I want to make sure that we're responding to everything that's been happening, responding to the federal government threats that keep happening, for example, our healthcare and our SNAP, and then responding to what has happened in our communities with ICE. And then my third priority would be to recover. Minnesotans have been going through so much, especially in these last 8 to 10 weeks. Woodbury and Maplewood are no exception. So I want to make sure that we're looking out and making sure that people can recover and become whole again. So looking at our small businesses, our schools, our families, our neighborhoods. So we got a lot of work ahead, but I think we're all ready to do some good work.
Thank you, Senator Hemmingsen Yeager. Next is Representative Johnson.
One second, I got to work on my alphabet, I guess. I was thinking I was a couple away yet. But thank you for hosting this again. My name is Wayne Johnson. I represent District 41A. Just like Washington County itself, it's a very long district. It goes from all the way from Cottage Grove all the way up to Grant in a very creative drawing way. Going forward, I think we recognize in everything you read, it's going to be a very challenging session. I think we're going to need to really work together, and everything that we do together is going to need to be bipartisan. And I think my bills going forward, which I'm going to consider as my priorities for this session, are reflected. One of them is going to be a bill for worker safety, as we saw the issue at the Recycling and Energy, where medical waste was being sent there, preventing that or working to make sure that doesn't happen. Disability rights for workers, to make sure that they are aware of what their rights. Affordability, I'm working with a couple of my communities, Cottage Grove, Lake Elmo specifically, and bonding for infrastructure and having to deal with some water. So want to do that. And then also just working with Second Harvest to make sure they can make their money go as far as possible by correcting an issue with sales tax. So those are kind of what I'm going to be working on, and I think they're all going to be very bipartisan as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Johnson. And now, Senator Klein.
Well, thank you so much, League of Women Voters. My name is Matt Klein, and I represent District 53, which is Inver Grove Heights, South St. Paul, West St. Paul, and Mendota Heights. And then on the Washington County side, Great Cloud Island, part of Cottage Grove, St. Paul Park, and Newport. In the Senate, I'm the chair of the Commerce and Consumer Protection Committee. I'm on the Energy Committee, and I've turned over my Taxes Committee spot to the new Senator, Amanda Hemmingson-Yager, and proud to do that. She'll do great work there. I think in future questions and subsequent questions here, we're going to talk a little bit about ICE in our state and what the legislature can do about that. We're going to talk about gun violence after enunciation. I'm eager to speak to those. But in terms of my priorities as the consumer protection chair, I think there are some bipartisan issues we can advance. We know that crypto kiosks have been targeting especially seniors in our communities. So people lose their life savings on these sort of seductive and defrauding entities, and we're going to regulate those. I think we're all concerned about data privacy. Everyone saw the Ring commercial where the dog is identified, and you're sort of part of a global surveillance committee based on your membership with Amazon or Ring. We're going to address data privacy. And then lastly, this issue of dynamic pricing, where I might get charged a certain price for a taco or a hamburger based on my demographics, and somebody else might get a different price because of what they know about that person. It's not fair. It's not right. We can protect Minnesotans from it, and I'm looking forward to working on those issues this session.
Thank you very much, Senator Klein. We're going to move to our second question, and a number of you have already referred to this topic through your introduction. So it's about how we're going to move forward. We understand that there will be an ICE drawdown, but how will we continue to ensure that Minnesota constitutional and state rights are protected? And even more as we move forward, how will we also be able to address the economic and social impact to our communities? And this time we're going to start with Representative Cha.
So I'm going to answer the second part of that question first, because I will tell you that in communities of BIPOC that I've visited, the impact is so enormous. We're seeing a huge decline of customers, and not only that, but vendors and business owners who are not, opening up their shop on regular hours, or perhaps even having shorter, work periods, and that's impacting, our economy. It's impacting our communities. You know, as we go into the session, as stated by many of the colleagues on here, is that we have to ensure and protect our constitutional rights of all who are here. Regardless of undocumented, documented, everybody has the human right to be here, and we must ensure that our civil liberties and our Constitution is upheld to the highest standard. And as your legislator going to 2026, that will be a priority among myself and I'm sure all of my colleagues. So thank you. Excuse me.
Thank you, Representative Cha. Representative DePel.
So with the current drawdown in the state and the cooperation that's occurring now, I believe that is a step in the right direction. It's brought leaders both from the state level and the federal level together. It's brought greater cooperation, and it's also brought order and law back to the streets. And so anytime the law is broken and our constitutional rights are trampled on, those items and issues should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We definitively should be able to enjoy every constitutional right we have here as American citizens. Those are protected. And apart from that, I have great hope that now that cooperation has re-ensued, that we will continue to have a thriving economy here.
Thank you, Representative DePel. Representative Hansen.
Thank you. I think we are going to need something like what happened in South Africa post-apartheid to get to the root of what actually happened here, whether it's a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to find out how these decisions were made, who made them, and who's accountable. I think we need to get some of the ICE individuals to actually talk about what happened and who made decisions, and in order to have that transparency and accountability. Secondly, the recovery part, as Senator Hemmingson-Yager mentioned, we have mechanisms. We have the Promise Act. We have dollars in DEED, the Department of Economic Development, where we could fairly rapidly get out funds to affected businesses, particularly those small businesses. I think we should make sure we're very targeted in terms of support to try to help them with their cash flow during these times. And then I think we as elected officials have to work on healing the movement that has resulted in the drawdown was not legislator or politician led. It was a dynamic group of Minnesotans coming together, and I think we should celebrate that and recognize that and try to amplify that for the future.
Thank you, Representative Hanson. Senator Hemmons and Yeager.
Thank you. So I think the best thing that I can do as a senator is support bills and support our community. So when I think about supporting bills, I think about bills that make sure that we hold anybody coming into our state to the same expectations we have for our own law enforcement. I'm thinking identification. I'm thinking, constitutional observers and treating them with their constitutional rights, masking, and things like that. Um, I also think we need to make sure that we're supporting bills that hold people accountable. The abuses that were happened to our community are not right, and we need to hold those things accountable and look into them further. And as far as the economic and impact to the communities, there's already talk about how can we help people with rental assistance? How can we help small businesses get back on their feet? We need to be thinking about those short-term recovery, but then also long-term. I mean, our kids with hiding in their homes, not being able to go to school, kids being impacted in school, like that's going to have long-term effects too. So we need to be really thinking short and long-term.
Thank you very much, Senator Hemmons and Yeager. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. One of the things we have to do when we go into the session is recognize what we can and can't do. And we know the courts are there to protect constitutional rights. We know Attorney General Ellison is out there ready to take to court if there's a situation he feels is unconstitutional. So we need to, understand that. One of the things that, as a small business owner, once again, where small businesses are being affected by something and decisions made, that they are in no control of. And so I sympathize and see how we can help them, but we also have to be mindful that we don't create another program that creates more fraud. And we have to figure out, make sure that when we start giving out forgivable loans, as was mentioned by the governor, that this is going to people who need it, who deserve it, and would help them going forward, and not just something we need to investigate going forward again.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Senator Klein.
Well, thank you. And as you've heard from the other legislators, there's going to be a raft of legislation coming forward to address what we've just been through the last couple of months. And I'm encouraged to hear that some of it is going to be bipartisan. It seems like it follows certain themes of how to just reestablish and fortify our constitutional liberties. I want to speak to one aspect of the question in my role as a physician. I worked at Hennepin County Medical Center for the bulk of my career, worked with law enforcement every day, and I never saw an incident where there was an infringement of our, duties that we had to perform as medical providers. There was never an invasion of privacy of patients because our police force here in Minnesota is highly professional. Clearly, that fell apart altogether during the ICE invasion of our state, where ICE officers were in personal patient spaces, were accosting patients while they were receiving necessary medical care. I'm going to author legislation to create hospitals and clinics as safe spaces, schools too. We need to create the expectation in our state that there are two different realms for those duties, and we can respect those.
Thank you, Senator Klein. Representative Buck.
Thank you. I talked briefly about it, but first we need to make sure that ICE truly does leave our state. We need to make sure that we are protecting the rights of our residents and our neighbors, and really make sure that we put oversight and regulation on them, since I don't believe that the federal government will do that. And that would look like I said earlier, mask bans, require visible personal and agency identification, especially so we can differentiate them between the local police, create civil and criminal penalties for when they violate our rights, make it so that people can go get health care and go to their court hearings without fear of getting abducted for doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. And I really know that mental health is going to be something that we need to support. There's going to be a lot of people who are affected and have been affected greatly by this. We could also help when it comes to eviction moratorium and looking at what that would look like. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. I've been very proud of the state, and I think we can do a great job together. So Padami IAP.
Thank you very much, Representative Buck. The next couple of questions, one's about budget, one's about voting rights, and Representative DePaul, we're going to start with you, and this one is about the budget. So Minnesota's latest budget forecast projects a $2.465 billion state surplus for the current biennium. However, with a projected structural deficit of nearly $3 billion in the following 28-29 planning period, what will you do to address the budget issue?
Well, first, a campaign promise that I made to my constituents was I wasn't going to vote to raise taxes. And as difficult as a promise that is to keep up at the Capitol, it is one that I kept, and it's one that I'm proud of. And as I said earlier, as a business owner who manages a budget and a multitude of different departments on a daily basis, I want to bring that experience and continue to push at the Capitol to have responsible spending. Of course, we saw during the trifecta, we had a great deal of money. There was a huge budget increase, huge tax increases, and huge mandate increase on the counties by a single party. And we lost balance in the state. Now the counties are struggling to pay for the things that they were mandated to do, but weren't given money to do with. And so we need to make sure we bring balance back to the state, both structurally and financially.
Thank you very much, Representative DePaul. Representative Hansen.
Thank you. I think the good news is our last month's forecast or report above the forecast showed additional dollars coming in. So, however, I do think the consequence of the ICE invasion is going to have an impact on our budget and economy, as well as the federal cuts that are forthcoming, particularly in healthcare. Uh, so, part of what we're going to have to do is look at where there is unencumbered money, if there was money appropriated from previous years, and see if some of that can be reprioritized. I'll use my committee as an example. If there's any unencumbered money in the agriculture budget, we'd like that to go to local food programs. We believe that type of assistance that through existing programs, that's like local food to schools, local food purchasing, all of those type of things, and focus on additional dollars going to people and also into healthcare. I am open to some revenue increases. I'll go back to the public works, these PFAS concerns with infrastructure. I have a bipartisan bill looking at that. So thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hemmingson Yeager.
Thank you. The budget, I think, is even more complicated than it has been in the year past. We rely on our November forecast and then we rely on our February forecast. And just think about what has happened between November and now. It could be a completely different forecast come February. So I think, like, for starters, we need to take a comprehensive look at how that forecasting has changed. And yes, we get like monthly updates, but again, we don't know the total impact to our communities and to our economy until things can get settled down. So I want to make sure that we're taking a comprehensive look. I want to make sure that we, again, are taking a comprehensive look across everything. And I think we need to start thinking about, like Representative Hansen said, creative ways to raise revenue that are make sure that that are not impacting our middle class, our working families, and look at ways to kind of keep moving Minnesota forward.
Thank you very much. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. And I just realized my microphone wasn't plugged in, so I don't know where my voice is carrying in from. But so technically we're in a policy year, not a budget year. So do I see meaningful changes made to the budget this year? No. I think there'd be some small things regarding taxes and stuff like that. So again, I don't see, I definitely would not be supporting things that make the budget more of a deficit. I still don't think we have a revenue issue. We have a spending issue. But I don't see this year as something that we're going to be doing any meaningful changes to the budget. So.
Thank you very much, Representative Johnson. Senator Klein.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to partially agree with Representative DePel that working people in Minnesota cannot tolerate any further tax increases in this time when affordability is prime. But we also have a tax structure in Minnesota that doesn't reflect our modern economy. Social media companies in our state mine our data at immense profit, billions of dollars, and they contribute $0 to our coffers. I've authored a bill that would tax the 8 largest social media companies in Minnesota based on their footprint in this state. And they should be contributing to our economy commensurate with their profits from it. In addition, the prediction-based markets like Polymarket are making a lot of money in Minnesota, not paying any tax revenues on that. And I think we could find some revenues there. And I think we do need to look very closely at grants to nonprofits. Obviously, we've seen they've been abused and exploited, and we should go through those with a fine-tooth comb and see if there are savings in that department as well.
Thank you very much, Senator Klein. Representative Buck.
Thank you. My approach would be grounded in responsibility, fairness, and long-term stability. I think first, I would advocate for structurally honest budgeting rather than creating new ongoing obligations that would just deepen future deficits. Second, I would support a fair and sustainable revenue system. As our economy evolves, our tax system must keep at pace as well. So that means closing loopholes and ensuring that the wealthiest Minnesotans and large corporations contribute fairly. Like Senator Hemmingson Yeager, almost called her representative, like she said, making sure that the middle class isn't continued to be taxed more and more. And then fourth, I want to make sure that we continue to defend the core public investments like education, childcare, healthcare, and public safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Buck. Representative Cha. I think you might be on mute.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Thank you for the question. I'm going to go with my colleague Vic Hansen here about reprioritizing. I think that's an important thing for us to do here is reprioritize some of our spending. We need to avoid some one-time spending to the dollars. And, I think it's going to be invaluable here that my Senator Hemmingson Yeager sits on the tax committee, and I'll be working along with her to ensure that, we find money coming in. But I like what Senator Klein said about, taxing these social media companies as I sit on Commerce also. And we need to find a way to tax these social media because they are impacting, our communities, our children, and I think that's somewhere we can kind of increase our revenues. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Cha. Okay, we're going to go to our fourth question, and here it is. And Representative Hansen, you're going to be first. So here's the question. Minnesota once again led the nation in voter turnout in 2025. What changes would you propose to existing election administration requirements to improve access to the ballot by voters and or improve election security and trust in elections? Representative Hansen?
Thank you. I think we do have a very good system, but we have fear can be a paralyzing impact on voter turnout. And so what's being proposed at the federal level is going to have dramatic impacts if it passes. But even if it doesn't pass, the concerns about ICE impacting our elections. One very specific law, Minnesota law prohibits police officers from showing up at a polling place. And if there was ICE voter intimidation occurring, our local police officers under current law would not be able to respond to a call for help. I think that's one small change that we can make that would allow our local police to respond incidents at voting. We also need to emphasize early voting, and I am getting less confident about mail balloting. We need to make sure that we get more early voting and that the polling places are safe and secure for people to participate.
Thank you. Senator Hemmings and Yeager.
Thanks. I think with the high voter turnout, I think that shows a trust in Minnesotans in our election system, our election administration. Otherwise, we wouldn't have such high voter turnout. I do think, though, that again, recent events have had a chilling effect, and people are nervous. So I think whatever we can do to support the Secretary of State, Steve Simon, he has great ideas on how to keep things protected. We need to make sure our counties are supported because they are the ones that are administering the elections and do a fabulous job every year. And I do think we need to make sure that we are allowing access for everybody that wants to vote and that has the right to vote. So whether that's encouraging early voting, making sure voting is accessible, making sure we can protect our mail-in balloting, and just making sure everybody feels comfortable, safe, and the ability to take part.
Thank you. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. One of the things that I think I'm very confident and I believe in is that people will find out ways to get their vote casted and their voice heard. Over the past few years, there more and more ways have been come up with early voting, mailing voting in different ways to get the ballots in. Washington County traditionally has had a very good turnout, very high turnout. I've served on the canvassing board as a county commissioner, going through the votes afterwards and checking and cross-checking like that. And I think we have voter integrity in Washington County. And I still believe if people want to get their voice heard and they want to get their vote counted, there are ways, and people are going to get their vote taken. So I'm confident going forward that we're going to have a very good election. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Klein.
Well, thank you. And I agree that the step one is to defend our gains. We've done tremendous things with Dropbox voting, mail-in voting, early voting in Minnesota, and we need to stand by those. They're good systems. They allow people with disabilities and seniors to vote safely. I will say that I think assaults on election integrity and assaults on our coming elections will be the next wave of this federal assault that we've experienced through ICE over the last month. And what we've shown is that the power of the people and the grassroots energy of Minnesotans has been our most effective tool against that. I think we might anticipate that we will experience misinformation about our election systems. I think we might anticipate that access to the ballot will be threatened. And we're going to need that same energy and power that Minnesotans showed in the last month over ICE to stand up for our right to vote and stand by their neighbors as they attempt to vote and stand up for the integrity of our elections, which we know to be sound.
Thank you. Representative Buck.
Part of what we must do is to be ready to react legislatively and judicially to the federal administration's stated goal of meddling in state elections. I want to work with our other legislators and folks in the Attorney General's office to really better understand what laws we can preemptively pass to try to prepare for or prepare as possible for when they do come to try and meddle. I know we have recently passed additional steps, and I'd like to work with folks on the Elections Committee to make sure that we continue to make it easy and safely vote for people. I really want to also make sure that everyone knows the different ways that they can vote. I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't know that someone could vote absentee and then have another individual drop off their absentee ballot in person with an ID. One person could do up to 3 ballots. So just making sure people know the different ways to vote. Pidamiaye.
Thank you very much, Representative Buck. Representative Chaw. Okay, you're on mute again.
I should just probably leave that on. Being a special election last year, I'm going to talk more about, senior access to voting, right? And, public announcement, adequate time. what I learned in that process, like, getting seniors to the poll is important, because of their, disabilities or inabilities to have transportation. So, that's important. Also, educating and, engagement in communities, right? And for example, in special elections and primaries and, what's a general, right? All these things are important. And I think we need to do more education than anything, because there are people who are very educated with bachelor's and masters who don't even understand the schedule of voting periods, what's a primary to a general and what's a special. And so I think the education piece needs to continue. But other than that, I think I'm very proud of Minnesotans for having the highest turnout at 78% voter turnout in the previous year. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative DePel.
Well, thank you. And I believe that our elections absolutely need to be safe and secure. Individuals need to certainly have access to be able to vote. It's one of the most fundamental things that we do here. That I think it's important to recognize that you have to show a driver's license when you go to buy alcohol. You have to show a driver's license to identify yourself when you do a multitude of different things. And that is a common sense item that nearly every American agrees upon based on recent polling within just the last week, that being able to show that you're a citizen of the United States or of the state that we live in is not a tall order. And for something as important as electing individuals who have the power to tax on the order of tens of billions of dollars when our state is struggling with affordability, I think it's important for Minnesotans to be able to hold their legislators accountable.
Thank you very much, Representative DePel. Our next couple of questions revolve around healthcare and resources, natural resources. So we're going to start with Senator Hemmons and Yeager. And this question around healthcare focuses on healthcare. With the end of the national healthcare subsidies to Minnesota residents, what will you do to ensure affordability and accessibility for healthcare for Minnesota residents? And Senator Hemmons and Yeager, you're first.
Thank you. This is a really hard question. This was something where, people in Minnesota, they wrote to their federal representatives, they wrote to their federal senators and just talked about how much of an impact getting rid of these subsidies would be. I sat on a panel with Representative McCollum and heads of MNsure and the hospitals and all these people across healthcare, and where everybody was concerned. So I think, as far as Minnesota goes, we can't cover that whole. So this comes back to really thinking comprehensively, coming together, thinking creatively on how we can make sure Minnesotans have affordable access to the healthcare that they need. Everybody's impacted by it. Everybody needs healthcare, and this is a question that has been weighing on me all year. So I wish I had a better answer, but this is it's going to be a really hard thing to grapple with for everybody.
Thank you, Senator Hemmons and Yeager. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. I agree. It's a very tough issue, and I guess I'm doing something that not very many politicians are willing to say is I don't have an answer. We're going to have to, and I'm looking forward to hearing from people who are really delved into this and really have spent a lot of time trying to figure this out. Yeah, it is a tough situation. Insurance is very expensive. I know how much it costs for my family to pay for insurance, and I can't believe it every time when we calculate it. But one of the things that we have to, very important in going forward, in my belief, is while we help people address the affordability, we also have to make sure we're not doing something that makes life more unaffordable for somebody else. And so in making things more unaffordable for something else, they no longer can afford their insurance. So I think it's very important that we look at that and see how we come up with answers that don't create more of a burden for Minnesotans.
Thank you very much, Representative Johnson. Senator Klein.
Well, thank you. And the end of the premium subsidies is just one part of a really bigger problem. We're going to see $1 trillion in cuts to medical assistance over the next year. That will devastate my old alma mater, Hennepin County Medical Center in downtown Minneapolis, but it will also devastate rural hospitals, rural nursing homes, and the ability of seniors to stay in their homes with supplemental therapies and treatments as well. I think it's going to create an opportunity where both Democrats and Republicans will be incentivized to really provide affordable health care for their constituents, and we're going to have to get serious about it. Here in the state of Minnesota, we've tried to nip around the edges. We've passed reinsurance. That was my bill. It will hold down premiums for people in the individual market. We've passed a prescription drug affordability board that should start to hold down drug prices for Minnesotans eventually. But I also agree with the previous speakers that we don't have the capacity all alone by ourselves as a state to backfill all of the cuts that are coming our way. And that is actually why I'm running for federal office, because we're going to need some bipartisan cooperation at a national level to try to sustain our healthcare delivery system in this moment.
Thank you, Senator Klein. Representative Buck.
Like everyone else, this is a really tough question. I don't have all the answers, but I do know, like Senator Klein said, let's see this as an opportunity as well. I think that this is a good way to start looking at what it would look like to open Minnesota Care to all who want it, see what other kind of revenues solutions we can bring that would still bring down the cost of care. Let's see if we can start the steps to make Minnesota health plan become law, universal health care. It's not only more cost effective, but it has better outcomes. I'm not saying it's something we could do right away or we should do right away. It'll be baby steps, but at least looking into it and seeing what the steps would be is one way we can look at it. But there's no one right answer, I don't believe. It's going to take all of us to work together to make this problem less effective or less imposive on us.
Thank you very much, Representative Buck. Representative Cha.
Yes, thank you for the question. I like what Representative Johnson and Senator Henderson Yeager mentioned, that this is a very hard, complicated issue. And what that means for me is that it means that I'll be having conversations with my colleagues across the aisle. And that means that when we have these hard conversations, we're going to have, to come to terms to have some good agreements together as a bipartisan House of Representatives. And I'm excited for that because, I'm one that pride myself in being able to work in a bipartisanship manner. But I agree with Senator Klein about as a standalone state, we won't be able to tackle this on our own, and we're going to need our federal partners to participate to make sure that we have health care for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative DePel.
Thank you for the question. And as somebody who owns a business in the healthcare industry, and I just attended the Dakota County Legislative Priorities meeting, they said that the Health and Human Services gave $200 million to counties to be able to solve a very simple problem with their software. And none of that money made it to the counties. The software wasn't fixed. And we can only imagine what happened to the $200 million. And so I would agree with the statement earlier that it actually isn't a revenue issue. It's a spending issue and it's a fraud issue. And we need individuals who will go to the Capitol and hold people accountable and make sure the money is being spent in the way that it's supposed to be. So Minnesotans don't struggle to pay their medical bills because some fraudsters siphoned all their hard-earned money off of them.
Thank you, Representative DePel. Representative Hansen.
Well, been a lot of interesting answers to this question, and I think we need to remember that this destructive chaos was a vote. It was a federal action. It was not a bipartisan action. It was a federal action that's causing dramatic changes and cuts, and it was a wrong priority. Assuming that the poorest and the weakest and the sickest of us are the ones that are causing budget deficits at the federal level when we have huge corporations and monopolies that are making a lot of money. We're left at the state level to try to clean up the chaos. When we have to do that, I think we have to take care of those that are the most hurt and try to make sure that it's essentially triage. How do we take care of those that are the most hurt? But we have to undo these dramatic and senseless cuts that occurred at the federal level and look at what is the best thing for our country.
Thank you, Representative Hansen. The next question revolves around our natural resources, and we're going to start out with Representative Johnson. Minnesota has strong laws to conserve and protect our natural resources. How can you balance federal and corporate interests with the need to protect our environment and safeguard the public interest? Representative Johnson?
Thank you. You are definitely keeping me on my toes because that wasn't the question I was expecting to be next. The You're right. Minnesota has very strong laws to conserve and protect our natural resources, and it's because what we're known for Minnesota. We also need to, as regarding we need to balance the difference between corporate and interests and the state and the public works. We have to make sure, see how they can work together because mining, if you ever been up there, is a critical part of our state. It is a critical part of our schools. When I was up there, I recently learned the $1 million that actually they contribute to Washington County schools itself. So we do need to figure out how the two can work together. There's jobs online, there's economy involved, but I definitely in support of our resources and protecting our environment and work figuring out how the two can work together.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Senator Klein.
Thank you. And I love the question because it gets to this tension between our respect and love for our waters and our clean air in this state, our most precious resource, and our need to incentivize industry and innovation in our state. The way it plays out in Dakota County most recently is with data centers. I sit on the Energy Committee where we've tried to balance the fact that data centers are coming. They are part of the next economy, but we have a responsibility as a state to ensure that they use water responsibly, that we have oversight and regulation over their water usage, and that they move towards green energy landmarks. We passed a bill last year. I think there's more work still to be done to ensure that we do protect our waters and our clean energy in this state as data centers continue to roll out, and that we stand with our friends in labor as they want those jobs to come to Minnesota and not go to other states.
Thank you, Senator Klein. Representative Buck.
Thank you. As a Dakota woman, every decision that I make, I need to take into account how that's going to affect the next 7 generations. And I need to protect our natural relatives. Even the wording what we use, natural resources, we need to change that to natural relatives. It's a reciprocal relationship that we need to start viewing in a different way. You talk about balancing federal interest. I'd say we don't need to consider them at all. As a state, we have a right to create our own policies, and we should. If there's nothing helpful that the federal government can do, then we need to do it ourselves. And as far as corporate interests go, I'm more concerned about the lives and well-being of our families instead of corporate profit, especially for extractive industries and for giving environmental and tax breaks to tech billionaires that want to build data centers. So I think it's really important that we really change the way we view this and come up with better solutions. Pidamiaye.
Thank you, Representative Buck. Representative Cha.
Yeah, I think it's very important to protect not only our water, but our air and our soil. And I say our soil because, as state of Minnesota, we are a top 5 state in agricultural production, right? And that ties into our soil, air, and our water. We must protect our clean water. It's very important to us, especially those of us in East Metro, with the PFAS situations and things that we've had to deal with as a community. And if we don't protect these things, our water, our soil, and our air, that means that we're not protecting the future for our children. As Representative Buck said, 7 generations. Yes, we are just a placeholder for the future generations, and we must hold ourselves, our colleagues, and our community and corporations accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cha. Representative DePel.
Well, thank you for the question, and this is extremely important to my district. The first thing that I did, even before I took office last session, was author four different bills to get funding for water purification systems because our water is polluted by PFAS, and the primary polluter was 3M. So companies should be held accountable when they affect the individuals and constituents that we have in our district. We shouldn't be made to pay for those things if we didn't cause them, and we absolutely should feel confident that the most fundamental thing to life, that being water, is protected, it's clean, and we can safely use that in our lives. So I believe my record proves that it's a priority of mine, and I'll continue to fight for that for my district.
Thank you, Representative DePel. Representative Hansen.
You know, for pretty much our whole adult lives, we've had this question about business versus environment, and I think it's been a wrong framing. I wouldn't say that we have strong environmental laws. If we had strong environmental laws, we wouldn't be drinking and eating and having PFAS in us. We wouldn't be having neonicotinoids in our deer. We wouldn't be having the consequences of having to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to clean up corporate waste. So there are a lot of lobbyists that come to the Capitol. They're there all the time. They have certain themes that they hit over and over and over again. We have to be able to reject that framing and reject the well off and the well connected constantly trying to affect us to protect. So we need to protect our water, and we need to protect our food, and we need to protect our air. And those are very basic things that we all need as human beings, not corporate profit.
Thank you very much, Representative Hansen. Senator Hemmings and Yeager.
Thanks. So, protecting the environment is consistently a top three issue and concern in my district. So, and also as the daughter of a career DNR employee, as the former co-chair of the subcommittee of Minnesota water policy, like water and protecting our environment are very core to the values that I represent in our community. Uh, I do agree with many of the people here that we need to start looking at how these big businesses, how they impact our communities, and we need to stop putting our communities on the hook for cleaning up messes. We need to stop putting households on the hook. Like we put as households a big part of like recycling and renewable energies, but we need to start thinking at the industrial and commercial and corporate level. They need to be doing their part as well. And kind of on the recycling thing, like if we recycled more of our e-waste, we wouldn't have to worry about mining so much. So I think we really need to be looking at how we're conducting ourselves in this natural environment ecosystem.
Thank you very much. The next question is going to be about gun regulation, and we're going to start with Senator Klein. Here we go. Minnesota has made strides in gun regulation. What policies would you support that continue to reduce homicides, suicides, or unintentional deaths or injuries due to firearms? Senator Klein?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll put on my doctor hat for this one. Gun violence is the number one killer of children in America, has been that way for over a decade. Even if we didn't care about it as a moral outrage, we need to care about it as a public health threat and address it with seriousness in that regard. I was proud to support and pass the universal background checks in 2023 and the red flag laws, which are proven statistically to decrease homicides and suicides. In the coming session, I will support and I will vote for on the Senate floor an assault weapons ban and a limit on magazine capacity. And I think those are the next steps that we can do to try to address gun violence. We should also improve access to mental health services in Minnesota. That's been the case for a generation, and it's an integral part of addressing this issue.
Thank you very much, Senator Klein. Representative Buck.
Thank you. I would support ghost gun regulation, high capacity mags regulation, as well as a assault rifle ban, legal accountability of gun industry, limit guns at places like the Capitol, campuses, or possibly even bars. Have school threat assessment teams, deadly force standards, require lost and stolen gun reporting, making sure that people have training to purchase a gun. It's something I would I would welcome personally. And then to make sure that domestic abuse restraining orders cover gun ownership immediately.
Thank you very much, Representative Buck. Representative Cha.
Yes, I mean, I support all the things we've done in caucus around red flag laws and universal background checks. And, this talk about ghost gun, that's a real thing and a real concern, and we need to address that. But, my experience here, I'm going to share with you that the extreme risk protection orders that we put in place, I think those things are important, right? And as we can see that those things do improve community and they work. And so we need to continue to strengthen programs like the URPA laws and continue to work together as a caucus, as a state of Minnesota to protect our children. As Senator Klein mentioned, that if it's a health crisis, it's just not about guns. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative DePel.
I would agree with nearly every representative and senator that's been on that we need to protect our constitutional rights. And the Second Amendment is a constitutional right. It says that it shouldn't be infringed, just like our Fourth Amendment right, our First Amendment rights, and all the rights that we have. That gives us the right to protect ourselves. And it gives us the right to protect ourselves against violent, convicted felons. And so I don't want to remove that from Minnesotans. I want to make sure that continues to be protected so Minnesotans can protect themselves from individuals who don't follow the law.
Thank you, Representative DePel. Representative Hansen.
A number of good ideas have been mentioned, and I've voted for many of those in the past. A couple of things I would add in is safe storage. You had asked in the question about how can we reduce maybe suicides or accidents, and I think keeping the guns out of hands of kids, making sure they're under lock and key is one thing. Also on that is our gun hunting safety training programs are shrinking in terms of the people putting them on. It's very hard to get into a gun safety training class if you're looking to do that to learn how to have safe gun handling with a kid. And I think we need to try to strengthen those and make sure they're more available for the gun safety training.
Thank you. Senator Hemmingsen Yeager.
Thanks. And Representative Hansen, you just jogged a memory. I remember growing up in my small town, and yeah, they always had a gun safety course. Like every year, everybody knew when it was and everybody could take it. So, yeah, so this has become a very salient issue in my district. People are tired of the news headlines. People are tired of seeing kids getting killed in schools and in places of worship now, and they want action. And the three probably most common sense action I hear from my constituents are safe storage. If you're a responsible gun owner, my dad did this too. The ammo was separate from the firearm. They were in a locked safe, in a locked closet that my siblings and I didn't really even know where they were. And those were hunting rifles. Another common sense thing I've heard from my constituents is banning assault rifles as well as the high capacity magazines. And I think Senator Klein hit it too. We need to continue our investment in mental health and caring for our communities.
Thank you very much. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. I went to a site called protectminnesota.org, and on there they had statistics regarding lethal gun violence in Minnesota in 2024. And very interesting information. 7 out of 10 gun deaths in Minnesota in 2024 were a result of suicide.
Mm-hmm.
That means 72%. So when we start looking at if we want to make the biggest dent in gun deaths, is we need to invest in mental health because we know they're going through a crisis. And what can we do to reduce that? Sorry, banning AR rifles will not reduce suicides because people are not using AR rifles. Reducing magazine capacity will not affect how many people commit suicide. They're going to, you take guns away, they're going to find another way. We need to address why this is such a problem and see if we can come up with solutions that can help people that are thinking about suicide. And that will make the biggest dent in gun deaths than anything else we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. You've all mentioned throughout this session, talking about working together. And that's our next question. And Representative Buck, we'll start with you, but here's the question. With all the rancor between the parties, what step will you take in the 2026 session to bridge the divide and reinforce cooperation and collaboration to get work of the people done? Representative Buck?
Thank you. I think coming from tribal council, was on tribal council for 12 years, six as president. I had to work on both sides. Throughout time, both sides have been both good and bad for tribes. So we've really worked on building partnerships with both sides of the aisle. And I think when I was president, we passed two or three bills through the legislature for the tribe, and we had to work with both sides to do those. I was really proud of our net zero project that we got funding for to help with that. It was a bipartisan bill. It took forever to get it because it was a pawn in everybody else's game there, but it was something that both sides agreed on. So I'm happy to work with folks on anything that I think is going to make the lives of our families better in Minnesota. And I won't compromise on my values, though. That is one thing that I have to hold true to is my values. But yeah, I'm willing to and able to work with just about anybody on anything that's going to help everybody.
Thank you very much, Representative Buck. Representative Cha.
Thank you for the question. You know, my first year as a freshman, I sat on agriculture and pensions, and my work on agriculture reflects my ability and my willingness to work across the aisle with my colleagues. And that's something I'm known for. In the last legislative session, when I introduced my veterans bill for SGU, of the 35 signatures on my bill, I had 24 Republican signatures to our 11 Democratic signatures on that bill. I think my legislative record shows and reflect that my willingness to continue to work, especially in the divided House. And I will continue that path forward and looking forward to working with everyone coming this legislative session. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cha. Representative DePel.
Well, thank you for that question. And I just want to give some real life examples as I have already talking here. So I've got a bill to make our sidewalks safer. There are e-bikes that don't belong on the sidewalks. There are certain classifications that do and some that don't. Some are actually motorcycles. And one of my constituents was nearly killed by one of them. She was hit from behind and spent 3.5 weeks in the hospital. She can't taste or smell anymore. And I'm proud to say that there are many individuals on the other side of the aisle who are more than happy to help craft and pass this legislation so that, as Representative Buck mentioned, we can do what's best for the citizens in our state that need to be protected. And e-bikes are a new thing. When you have an e-moto, something very powerful and fast, it's something we need to address.
Thank you, Representative DePel. Representative Hansen.
Thank you. I think there are little things that we can start by leading by example. For example, next week when the Ag Committee has its first hearing, because we're co-chairs, Paul Anderson and I will be presenting together. We're showing that we're working together in presenting the first hearing and chairing that first hearing. Other little things, when we get Representative Mary Franson and I share a birthday, and we provide treats to our committee together. Little things like that, where we, as human beings, work together. When we get into more policy, we have Republicans sign Democratic bills, Democrats sign Republican bills that are useful for our community. For example, in Washington County, when we have projects, particularly infrastructure and public works, we need to sign on each other's bills. And we need to support those bills that are joint for our communities or for our county. And then finally, we've got to be willing on projects like that and on a bonding bill. It takes bipartisan work, and we need to have those bipartisan votes for public work.
Thank you, Representative Hansen. Senator Hemmons and Yeager.
Thanks. This is a good question. So In the house, I have a good record of working together. I feel if you're respectful and professional and you focus on the values and you focus on the issue and the work in front of you, you can get a lot of great work done. I think if you look at the consumer protections for crypto kiosks, that was Republican, that was me and a Republican as co-authors. Everything from whole genome sequencing, as the co-vice chair of the Veterans Committee, we had to come together to craft a vets bill, Democrats and Republicans. So I have a really good record of doing that in the House. I intend to bring forth that into the Senate. And I think, as many are demonstrating here, we really need to lead by example. Again, I think our communities are expecting us to work together. We have to go to our day jobs and work with people that we may not agree with all the time. And there's no reason we should be expected to do that in the legislature. So I can look forward to finding places of common interest and working together to get some good work done.
Thank you very much, Senator Hemmings and Yeager. Representative Johnson.
Thank you. One of the best things that happened and that they started, and I don't know how long they did it, but when freshmen came together, orientation brought both sides, Republicans and Democrats, together, and we did orientation together. So we got to know each other, the new members. And one of the things when we actually got to the floor and started pretending we're on the floor, I sat with the Democrats. I didn't know any different because I just had some new friends, so I sat with them. So I started creating that relationship to begin with. The bills that I mentioned earlier all have Democrat senator authors on the other side. So every bill I came in, I started putting together both sides working together and making them nonpartisan. So I also had these friends that from the Democrat side reach out to me already saying, how are you doing? How was your summer? Are you ready to get together? How can we create some bills that we could work together? I'm anxious to, for you to sign on to mine and I sign on to yours. So I've already started that process, and I think with the new members coming in, I think we're moving in a very good direction to do that this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Johnson. Senator Klein.
Yep, and before I start, I'm going to just say that Senator Rick Hansen has told me that his phone is dying, so he may drop off, and it's not through any fault of his own. In 1862, Abraham Lincoln told Congress that the dogmas of the past are inadequate to the stormy present, and I would apply that to this moment as well. After what we've been through this year with the death of Melissa Hortman, the invasion of our state and our constitutional liberties, anybody who is still sort of approaching this as a partisan team sport, Vikings versus Bears, how can I embarrass the other side, is not meeting the moment. I think that what we've been through speaks more to what we all take pride in as Americans and patriots and sustainers of a constitutional republic. What you've heard on this call today is that there's bipartisan energy behind responsible budgeting, affordable health care, constitutional liberties. There are things that we need to do, and we need to do them urgently. Our constituents expect us to do them. I've always been a problem solver, not a bomb thrower, and I'm ready to work across the aisle to accomplish these things for Minnesota.
Thank you, Senator Klein. Since Representative Hansen's phone is dying, do you want to do your summary statement? I was going to do one more question about affordable housing because you guys have been really good about keeping track of time. But Representative Hansen, do you want to do your summary statement? Are you still
Yes.
with us?
Yeah, but I've got about 2% here. So
Okay,
I just
just
want to
talk fast.
thank the League of Women Voters and all of my colleagues here for making time on a Saturday. And just, for our constituents, feel free to contact us. We work for you. It is such an honor to work for you. We've been through a lot. We have a lot to work on. So feel free to come, send us an email, call us, text us, social media us, show up. It's really important to save our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending. I think we do have time for one more question, and it's an important one, and we're going to start with Representative Cha. The lack of affordable housing is an ongoing issue. What legislation or policies would you support to help the housing market be more affordable? Representative Cha.
Thank you for the question. I sat on housing for the first part of my freshman year, and housing is important to me because it's about stability. And when you have stable housing, you have better health outcomes and educational outcomes. And that's important to all Minnesotan families. It's important to our seniors. We must ensure and continue to protect senior housing and assist seniors in their housing and accommodations. And so these things are important because it also applies to seniors in the state of Minnesota that if we provide stable housing for seniors, that we would provide a healthier and more vibrant, economy and community for all, which is inclusive of seniors, children, and healthy families. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative DePel.
Well, thank you. And this is a critical question because we're losing the American dream really in Minnesota and broadly. And it's a simple economic question of supply and demand. If we had more homes, they would cost less. And we have a housing shortage, especially in Minnesota, which means that we need to pass laws that make it less expensive to build homes and make homes more affordable. One way that we do that also is on the supply and demand side of economics. If the supplies that you need to build a home are more expensive here, the homes are going to be more expensive. And if the regulations are so restrictive on homes, they're going to be more expensive. So if you look across the border in Wisconsin, you'll find that a new home is between $20,000 and $40,000 less because of regulations and constriction to supplies to build them. So I would fight to remove those barriers in Minnesota.
Representative Hansen, are you still around or not? I guess he's not. Okay, Senator Hemmons and Yeager.
Thank you. And I agree, this is a big issue as well. I think we need to, if they're talking to people, homeowners, people who want to be homeowners, and then also talking to building developers, I think there's other things at play than just the house itself and how the house comes to be. I think we need to look at things like corporate land ownership and corporate housing and people who, like, all these companies are gobbling up these houses and jacking up rents and jacking up prices. There are things that like aesthetic barriers, so things that communities are putting onto developers that increase the cost that may not really be about health and safety, but are more aesthetic we could look at. And then I think when it comes to buying a home, we need to make sure our workers' wages are keeping up. It's not just the houses that are keeping people out of this American dream. It's the fact that our wages for our workers are not keeping up with the inflation and prices either.
Thank you very much. Representative Johnson.
It's very tough. I'm on the housing committee and it's been a topic. And I was just in a meeting this week that actually was brought this up. And it really boils down to, as Representative DePel said, it's an economics. You can go all the way back to 2008 when we had the big crash. And yes, a lot of homes came on board because of repossession, but a lot of people left the construction industry. And so still haven't recovered. You look at back at COVID and basically the amount of homes that were not being built. But the big thing too is we have to make sure we don't continue to add costs to the contractors that is increasing the cost of the housing. We just need to do more. We need to build more, but not keep putting on sales tax and extra costs that are doing it. I talked to a builder, and the builder said, "We keep getting they're making it so it's not good to hire more people. Just raise prices on the housing and make less housing." So we need to find out why these costs keep going on, and people are moving to Wisconsin to build the homes. We can come up with solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Klein.
Thank you for the question. At the federal level in the past, we've had a first homeowner's mortgage tax credit, which is a good idea both at the federal and at the state level, and something that we could look into. There have also been proposals at the state and federal level to create grants to support infrastructure like sewage needs and road needs for communities that choose to invest in affordable housing. We would sort of incentivize them to do so by funding part of the infrastructure around that. I think those are good ideas. I do think a bonding bill is essential this year, and we can dedicate a portion of that to new construction of affordable housing. And as someone previously mentioned, I think permitting reform is essential in this state. It takes too long to get a project approved. It's holding us back on green energy initiatives. It's holding us back on housing and other significant things we want to accomplish as a state. And I would push for that as well.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to our final question. First of all, I want to say how much we appreciate everyone being here and taking time, especially with the session coming up so quickly. Your time is, we know, very valuable. Um, we'd like to give everyone the opportunity to make final comments on today's discussion. Include one perspective you would like our audience to take away from our meeting. The other thing I'd like you to include, what's the best way to get in touch with you? I mean, email, text, phone calls. I mean, what is the best way? So we're going to start with Representative DePel.
Well, thank you very much for that. And one item to take away is as a father of six, I've been married to my wife for 17 years, co-founder of a school, a business owner. I have a lot invested in the state, and I truly signed up for this to serve and sacrifice for my district. And that's what I hope to continue to do. I think my record has spoke for itself, that I've kept my promises on not increasing taxes and, in fact, only voting for bills that decrease spending. So apart from that, I love to hear from my constituents. I meet with every single constituent anytime they ask. It doesn't matter what they want to reach out and talk about, and you can email me or call me at my official email or phone line, and I'll be certain to get back to you.
Thank you so much, Representative DePel. Representative Hansen. Oops, of course, he is gone and he's already spoken. So we're going to go to Senator Hemmons and Yeager.
Thank you. And again, just want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this every year. Thank you to the audience for tuning in. And if you tuned in later, thank you for watching the recording. I think there's a lot of really insightful answers and information that we all talked about in this forum. Excited to be a senator. My values and my approach will not be any different from when I was in the House, just a little bit bigger district, but my LA is amazing and fabulous, and she is very helpful to help me out with this new role. I think you've heard throughout this that everybody here is really wants to hear from their constituents, and especially what we've seen in the past couple of weeks and months is that we are responsive to constituents. When people have an issue and when people stand up and organize, people listen. So I encourage you to keep talking, keep reaching out to us. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky. You can email me and my LA. You can call us. Just really happy and excited to get some work done. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Johnson.
Thank you, and thank you again to the League of Women Voters for hosting. I enjoy doing this. And one of the things I think the most important thing I can share is there's going to be a lot of noise. And as they say, a lot of the noise is going to actually hide the efforts and the work that is being done. The best thing you can do as a constituent is reach out to your representative, your senator, if you have any questions, if you really want to hear what's going on. Sign up for the newsletters that go out periodically. Go on to Facebook, make the phone call, just ask to meet. And that's the best way to do it, because we were told it was going to be impossible to get anything done last session because of the tie, and we got a lot done. We found out how to work together, and we got the work done for Minnesotans. So we will go into this. We can do amazing things. We will get something done, and for Minnesotans, but just reach out to the people who are down there representing you instead of just paying attention to what you see on social. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Johnson. Senator Klein.
Well, thank you so much to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. Next year will be my last year at the Capitol. It'll be my 10th year. It's been a decade. Every year I've done this, I think, with the League of Women Voters. When we first did it, There was no
Yeah.
such thing as Zoom, so we met in the council
Yeah.
chambers and we looked at each other in the face. And so times change rapidly. What a privilege to sort of be part of this flowing stream of democracy, to sort of serve and represent this district and then pass the torch next year to somebody else who will have their own perspective. And we live in a great system. We're going through a moment in history that will be recorded forever, and that none of us have ever experienced before. And it's incumbent on us in this time to rise to the moment. Minnesotans have shown us what their character is. They've risen, they've gotten out and fed their neighbors, they've gotten out with whistles, they've showed courage, they've showed integrity, they've showed compassion, and they've showed us what the values are that they expect us to represent with. I'm proud to have one more chance to do that for the last year, and thank you again to the league.
Thank you. Representative Buck.
Padami Ayepi, thank you to the League of Women Voters and everybody who tuned in today and who will watch this recording later. I'm excited to get started. I've been drinking from a fire hose, and I'm sure that will continue, but I enjoy that, I guess. The best way to reach out to me is my email, be rep.shelley with an EY .buck at house.mn.gov. I believe I got that right. I do have a Facebook page now, an official one. It's State Representative Shelley Buck. You can sign up for my newsletter. I'm not sure when it'll go out yet because it'll be the first one, but just getting my feet wet and getting things going. But for the housing, because I didn't get to answer that one, just real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I would say making sure that bonding is available for affordable housing and senior housing. Make sure that when we create laws that will affect the local and county governments, that we're, if it's going to cost them money, that we help them with that instead of expecting them to foot the bill for that and pass it on to the constituents. And I think that's all I had for that one. Oh no, actually, look creatively and look at things like hemp housing as well. Just try to get creative when it comes to housing. So, Padama Yayepi, I'm excited that this is my first one, and I can't wait to do many more.
Thank you very much. And again, I apologize, Representative Buck. Representative Cha, the last word from our representatives and senators.
Thank you so much to the League of Women Voters. This is my fourth session going in, and I am humble and honored to have the privilege to serve in the Minnesota House of Representatives for a fourth session. You know, bringing us back to the center after the 2025 and a year that we've had, and what our community and our state has gone through. I believe in democracy, the Constitution, and our civil liberties as a citizen to the state of Minnesota. I believe in my colleagues in the Senate, across the aisle in the House, that we will work together as Minnesotans, that we are stronger today than we were yesterday because of what we have been through together as a House caucus, as legislators serving the state of Minnesota. And as the word of Governor Walz, we are proud to be Minnesotans, and I'm very proud to be serving the House with my colleagues, across the aisle in the caucus and my senators. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Representative Cha. And as we close, I just want to reinforce what you really all have been saying about connecting and working across the aisle. And I think we've seen in these last months and weeks, it is really about getting together. It's really about collaborating and community. And the more we can see that with our legislators, the prouder I think we can be, and the more we can really illustrate to the rest of the country what democracy really is all about. So thank you so very much for participating today. It's really been wonderful, and I wish you the best in this legislative session. Thank you again.